Let's now head to the Senate in the United States, where U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is currently testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in Washington, D.C. Let's listen in.
This was very popular. Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, basically everybody in Latin America has been fighting. A lot of them are in Miami, as you know, because they've had to leave these countries because of socialism and lack of opportunity. So what the president did, the willingness of the president with your support and with Pete Hegseth's and military was very, very, very well thought of. So the first thing I want to say is on behalf of Floridians, thank you for what you guys did. Now, the next is everybody has these ridiculously high expectations, which we all do. We would love to have a free and fair election tomorrow, where there was you knew that there was no oppression. Everybody wanted to run; they could run. So, tell us how should Venezuelans and Cubans and Nicaraguans look at this, and how patient should they be, and what would be the sort of the milestones you would give them to look at to say we are making progress?
Well, first I would remind everybody, let's just go back 6 months, 8 months, a year ago at this time. The Venezuelan challenge for us was frozen. It was a frozen situation. We had a regime that was entrenched. Its opposition was either in hiding or had been forced overseas. Edmundo Gonzalez lives in Spain. Maria Corina is no longer, she's very brave. She stood there as long as she could, but she had to leave. The others are in jail. They were increasing their relationships and outreach with Iran, and currently have existing ones with Russia, Cuba, and China. And other than more sanctions and more speeches and more threats and whatever, it was a frozen situation. Now, for the first time in literally a decade, there is the opportunity that something could change. There's not the guarantee that something will change, but there is the opportunity that something will change. We have changed that dynamic, which goes back to the question that Senator Merkley had about Cuba. What we are looking for is the opportunity for a change in dynamic. That's a country that's been backwards. It has no functional economy. The people, you can call them Marxist, we can call them communist, but not even Lenin would recognize this version of communism and Marxism that they've instilled in Cuba. It's an economic model that hasn't worked anywhere on the planet. The suffering in the rural areas of Cuba are acute and they're deep. And it's not because of the embargo, it's because they don't know how to run an economy. How is it the fault of the U.S. embargo that Cuba, one of the world's largest sugar producers, now imports sugar? Because no sector of their society works. It's frozen and it's broken. But in the case of Venezuela, we have a glimmer of hope now, the opportunity to change the dynamic. Now, what that will require is smart decisions on our part, but ultimately it will require decisions made by Venezuelans, both those currently in charge of the interim authorities and those who may be in charge in the future as well to step forward. It is our sincere belief that the only way you're going to have a free, prosperous Venezuela that's allied with the United States is one in which every sector of their society is represented in their politics. And that includes many people who currently live abroad. And even the opposition, people like to say the opposition is very diverse. There are members of the opposition that were once part of Chavismo and turned against it. There are members of the opposition that have never been Chavistas, like Maria Corina Machado, and have been very forceful against it. So that broad sector has to be represented as well. So you have to have a process of internal reconciliation that allows these voices to begin to participate in the political life of that country, and that ultimately bring us to a point in which you can have a country where all of these elements of their society are represented in their politics. And look, there's a percentage of the Venezuelan population, I don't know what the number is, whether it's 15 or 20, that may not have liked Maduro, but are still committed to Chavista ideology. And they'll be represented in that platform as well. They may not win elections, but they'll be involved in this. That'll be up to the Venezuelan people. But our desire here is to have, what's the end state? We want a Venezuela that has legitimate democratic elections, sometimes elects leaders that are friendly to the United States, sometimes elects leaders that maybe are not the person we would have wanted to win, but that's not unique for us. That happens all over the world. We're not disputing that Petro is the legitimately elected president of Colombia, and yet he doesn't always say nice things about us. So, but we also want a Venezuela that's prosperous and a Venezuela that's aligned with the United States. And a year ago at this time, this was frozen. Now we have a real opportunity, not just to create change systemically within that country through our help, but their efforts, but also one that is no longer a base of operation, the central base of operation for every geopolitical adversary we have. And that's what Venezuela was under Maduro. And that's what we hope and intend to change.
So would you, if you're a Venezuelan that lives in Miami, so what you would say is that you're working hard. There's a lot of variables outside your control. But you'd say right now, political prisoners are being released, never fast enough. The oppression is being reduced, not fast enough. Opposition leaders are speaking up more and more. So we're making progress, and you're going to continue.
That is the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's before the Senate. Rubio says cooperation with the U.S. is in line with Venezuela's interests. The U.S. will be a far better partner for a future Venezuelan government and even for the current authorities than some of the partners they have signed up with now. He's actually answering why the U.S. decided to invade Venezuela and arrest Nicolas Maduro. He says that elections are far-fetched and it's not a matter of discussion right now.